After 2020, inflation began to rise to its highest levels since 1981. And factors like the Russia-Ukraine war and the COVID pandemic created numerous problems in the market, causing prices for goods and services to rise. Because of this, Chairman of the Federal Reserve Jerome Powell began hiking interest rates and even expects more ahead, as the quote-unquote inflation fight has a long way to go. So if you have your money sitting in a traditional savings account like one of these where you earn nearly nothing, your money is losing value every day. Why be in that position when you can get a high yield savings account where you can earn over 12 times more money than the national average savings account? And crazy enough, all the accounts I'm going to show you in this video currently yield between 4 to 5% returns, and if we take that to the extreme and compare that to something like Chase that gets you a 100th% of an interest rate, that means that these new accounts I'm showing you in this video could get you 4 to even 500 times more money by watching this video and taking further action. Now before I dive deep into this, all I ask is that you kindly hit the like button below. And while you're doing that, here's a background video of puppies going for a car ride. Which, before we get started, I've created a free savings account master sheet that I think you will find helpful. I'll have the link to that in the description below for you to check it out. With that said and done, let's first cover what is a high yield savings account. Now, a high yield savings account is a type of savings account that can get you much higher interest than a traditional savings account, which is the reason for its name. High yield savings account. And for the most part, these accounts are FDIC insured, which means your money can pretty much grow risk-free, and even if the bank fails, you are protected and guaranteed up to a certain amount by the government. So because of this FDIC insurance, as long as you stay underneath the guaranteed amount, whether it's a new bank giving out great services and high yields, or a traditional one that barely gives you any yield on your cash in a savings account, the risk is still the same. Now that is considering that you stay under the typical insurance amount, which is guaranteed up to $250,000 per person per bank for each ownership type, which all savings accounts should have. But some platforms like SoFi have a program that can get you up to $2 million of coverage. And how this works is, instead of you manually having to go to multiple different banks and setting up different accounts, SoFi will automatically do it for you, where you can still have access to all of your cash through SoFi. Aside from that, something else to mention is that high yield savings accounts are not meant for building long-term wealth, but are more so meant for your cash to be placed in a position to help you achieve short-term financial goals. In fact, a great use for a high yield savings account is for an emergency fund, which everyone should have and contain 3 to 6 months of living expenses in case of an emergency. Another reason could be that you're saving up for a vacation or a near down payment on a house, where you want that cash to be in a safe place while still earning you interest, so that inflation doesn't eat away at your money. Now, as far as the interest that you actually earn from having a high yield savings account, the rates are going to fluctuate depending on current market conditions, which, as of the recording of this video, the Fed is raising rates to combat inflation, and because of that, the rates on these high yield savings accounts are going to be much higher than normal. For example, all the accounts I'm going to mention throughout this video can currently earn you between 4 to 5% of an APY. APY stands for annual percentage yield, and that means your money, if the rate were to stay the same throughout the entire year, would earn you 4 to 5%. That means if you had $10,000 sitting in an account, you would earn $400 to $500 after a full year's time, unlike a traditional savings account that may get you a couple dollars. Now remember, the rates do change, and although all the ones in this video currently get you over 4% of a yield, in the next year or two it could be at 2%. But something else to note is that for most accounts, your interest you earn is going to be compounded daily automatically for you, but you will not visually see this because the interest is typically paid out to you monthly and not every day. The last thing to know about high yield savings accounts is that they are typically offered from online only bank accounts, which means there are no physical branch locations. This reduces the bank's overall expenses and is a big factor towards why they're able to give out high yields and great features. Which, to be honest, you don't need to be going to the bank for this, because you can easily do it through your phone or computer and contact the customer service worst case. But I will tell you, of all the accounts I'm going to show you in this video, only one of them has in-person locations. Which, for those that are new to these accounts, the high yields that you're going to be able to earn, they're not typically offered by big banks like Chase, Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, to name a few. And this is because when interest rates are higher, the big banks make even more money by taking advantage of the greater spread between the interest they pay to their customers and the profit they earn by investing. So like I said in my example earlier about Chase giving out a 100% of an interest rate on your savings, that's literally nothing, and the big banks are basically using your money to make them more money. And because of that, my goal with this video is to inform you on the financial benefits that you can get from using a high yield savings account and get what you deserve and not the big banks. So now that you have a better idea for what a high yield savings account is and how they work, let's now go over the benefits. I will discuss the things to be aware of near the end of this video, but the first benefit is an obvious one, because high yield savings accounts earn higher interest than traditional savings accounts. The second benefit is that your money is not locked away in these accounts, which means it is extremely liquid. And when you have something that is liquid, that means that it is easy to convert into accessible cash that you can use for a near purchase in that currency. Because of that, this is a great option for having an emergency fund. Or additionally, you can use this for any short-term financial goals you may have, like a near vacation, down payment for a house, or any future purchases you have coming your way. On top of that, the high yield savings accounts I'll show you later in this video offer you these benefits at no additional cost like monthly fees, and besides one bank I'll discuss later, there's no minimum deposit or balance requirement. Now, another benefit to these accounts is that your savings are risk-free up to a certain amount because your money is going to be FDIC insured. And because these accounts are online, signing up and managing them is extremely easy to do. And the last benefit to using a high yield savings account is so you can protect yourself from inflation eating away at its value. Now, beating inflation takes balance and is about diversifying your investments from your savings to your investment portfolio, where you can find assets that can either outpace inflation or at least are helped by it. And during periods of high inflation, luxury assets like fine art shine the brightest. In fact, according to our sponsor of this video, Masterworks, their art index of contemporary art prices rose at an annual rate of 20% on average during inflationary periods. While records of inflation make it more difficult for you or I to purchase gas or certain foods because they rose in price so much, the ultra wealthy weren't affected as much, and some even got wealthier. Now, you might be thinking, how can someone like you or I protect our cash and diversify our investment portfolio by investing into fine art like a Picasso painting? Well, that right there is where our sponsor of this video, Masterworks, comes into play, because they have sold over $45 million worth of art and distributed the net returns to investors. Through COVID, inflation, and major market volatility, the art market rebounded and surged past pre-pandemic highs. Experts expect the global value of art to grow by $1 trillion by 2026, and Masterworks is a platform that allows everyday people to invest into multi-million-dollar paintings for just a fraction of the cost. Instead of buying an entire painting, with Masterworks you can invest into one and receive your share of the potential net profits, which 100% of their exits have delivered a positive net return, and over 750,000 people are on board, and demand is growing by the day. Now, there is a waitlist, but I do have an exclusive link in the description of this video where you can skip the line to join and start investing like the super wealthy today. With that being said, back to the video, let's now go over the best high yield savings accounts to consider starting with. Before I get started, I have a free savings account master sheet that I think you will find helpful, which I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check out after this video. Now, with that, there are 5 accounts that I have narrowed down for you, and the first one is SoFi. SoFi has over 5.5 million members and is a company I'm sure many of you have heard of, which as of this video, you can get a 4.4% yield with no account fees or a required minimum deposit. And on top of that, if you sign up with them, you can get up to $275 free. If you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description of this video for you to learn more and get started, but just so you do know, my next video is going to cover these 5 accounts in much more detail. With that being said, the next bank account is Ally Bank. Ally Bank also comes with no monthly fees or a minimum required deposit amount. The bank is primarily known for their clean and beginner-friendly platform because they help you organize your specific goals with your savings. To be more specific, Ally Bank offers you a bucket feature where you can have different sort of buckets where you can specify where you want your savings to go towards. An example of doing this could be for an emergency fund, a vacation fund, or education fund, and there are many more options if interested, which by using Ally Bank, currently you can yield 4% of a return. On to number 3, the next bank on my list is Marcus by Goldman Sachs. This account is simple and easy to use and helps you track your net worth if you're interested, and is also credible because it's backed by Goldman Sachs. Now, this account comes with no monthly fees or a minimum required deposit amount, while currently giving out a 4.15% yield, which if you're interested in sign up using the link in the description of this video, you can get an additional 1% for the first 3 months. By using the link and getting that additional 1%, you would be achieving the highest yield out of all the accounts I'm showing you in this video. From there, number 4 is Capital One. I know some of you are more comfortable picking the biggest and most credible banks possible that still yield high returns, and that right there is Capital One. By using this account, which is also known as the 360 Performance Savings Account, you can yield 4.15% with no fees or required minimum deposit amount. I've heard from many that favor this bank and that their customer service all around has done well for them. And lastly is number 5, which is CIT Bank, which this bank, just like the other banks, can get you daily compounding while having no monthly fees and be FDIC insured. They also state that you can deposit checks and make transfers through their mobile app. The difference here is they have a minimum required deposit amount of $100, which really isn't that big of a deal because you are getting the highest flat rate of all the accounts I'm going to show you. Now, CIT Bank has 2 different accounts that you could choose from. The first being the Savings Connect, where you can get a 4.6% yield, and the other is a Platinum Savings Account that gets you a 4.95% yield, but that is only if you maintain a balance of $5,000 or more. Now, like I said, this is just a simple overview for these accounts, and my next video is going to be these 5 in much more detail. But now that you know some of the best accounts to choose from and how to reap the rewards, let's finish the right way and cover the things to be aware of. of. The first thing is that high yield savings accounts contain variable interest rates, which means they can fluctuate at any time. For example, you may see extremely high rates right now like CIT Bank that is nearly 5%, but in time that could decline significantly. Like I said earlier, in the next year, 2, or even 3 years, it could be at 2% of a yield. Now another factor to be aware of is that high yield savings accounts are not meant for long-term wealth because rates will eventually decline and times will always change in the market, and eventually there could be times where inflation is higher than the rates you can even achieve. This is why it's somewhat important to stay up to date with the market, because there's going to be times where it would be better for your cash to be invested than sitting on the sideline. Another thing to be aware of is the possibility that some places charge fees, which none of the ones covered in this video do. But an example of this for you is M1 Finance, which I have an investment account because of their special features that I love, which I recommend, and if you sign up and deposit $5,000, you can get $100 free. I'll have a link in the description if you want to learn more about that. But the reason I mentioned M1 Finance is because their high yield savings account can currently get you 5% of a yield, but that is only free for 3 months if you use my link. If you do not, you're going to have to be paying about $10 a month after. And in addition to that, some locations like CIT Bank, you should have a minimum $5,000 balance, because if you do not, you are going to be earning much less than what's advertised. And for this example, that would be 0.25%. And just to be clear, this bank does have a minimum required deposit amount, and that is $100 to open up your account. Another interesting scenario is one like Vero Bank, where you can yield 5%, but only up to a $5,000 balance, and any cash after that only earns 3%, which is why reading through everything is extremely important. Something else surprising is that some institutions may even limit how often you can transfer and withdraw from your account in a given month. With that being said, you have now learned everything you need to know about high yield savings accounts and starting on your own so that you can get what you deserve and not the big banks. Which, don't forget, if you are interested in SoFi, Marks by Goldman Sachs, or even M1 Finance, check out the links in the description below where you can get a bonus when you sign up. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notifications button to be alert for future Money Talk content like this.